welcome to the banks of the River Avon. This is a new kind of project for me. I've hardly ever fished this river in my time. It's strange because I was born in Hampshire and this is in Hampshire, or a lot of it is. I've got loads and loads of river to go at, and I really got my teeth into pike fishing this winter. So news is that the royalty has already done over 20 20s to I think £26 or so. So it's really the river that's in form at the moment. And I've come down and I'm just going to go through a few short sessions, recce ones, just to find some swims, drop some baits in for like 10-15 minutes, just use dead baits to start off with, and hopefully catch a few fish. I actually dropped into a new stretch this morning, and straight away I had a double-figured pike, so I'm up and running. That's really good. That stretch was only a short stretch, only felt that there was one swim worth fishing, so I've moved on to another stretch which has got miles and miles of water. But the first thing I've noticed, it's really weedy, so we need a few frosts and get this all flushed through, because trying to present a bait is really difficult. But I'm going to talk about different topics: live baiting, using up traces, bite detection, bait features. But in this first one, I'm just going to explain why, the tackle I'm using and why I've beefed it all up to the sort of pike tackle that I'd be using on the lakes. This is a 3-pound test curve carp rod, and I've got a Shimano 6000 here, but it's loaded with 45-pound braid. 45-pound braid, it's going to give me instant bite detection. Again, we'll talk about that later on in other videos. Instant bite detection, but more importantly, or as importantly, if a fish goes in weed, it almost cuts through the weeds. So that's really a really good reason to use braid. It also means if I get snagged in a tree or submerged branch or a weed bed, I can just put a straight pull on and bend the hooks out and not leave traces in there. So 45-pound braid, and I've got a run ring here with it. Just if it, the weight can go in the silk, but it keeps it nice and resistance free. And there's a clip there, and I'm going to be using quite big leads, sort of 3.5 ounce leads. One, because I don't want the flow to be moving that bait and potentially pulling that bait into weed, but also because I don't want the pike moving the lead. I just want, as soon as that pike picks up, I want to see a tap on the rod tip, pick the rod up, wind down and strike. That is coming down to a big buffer bead, and I've got about a 20-inch trace here, and it's made of 49 strand wire. I'll go into the different types of wire and when and why to use them, but basically 49 strand. It's a lot more supple, a bit more expensive. It doesn't kink after every fish, so it lasts a lot longer. And then down here I've got a couple of big size 4 semi-barbed hooks, and what I've done is I've made these traces myself. The reason being is I've double crimped all the hooks and a swivel, so there is no way anything's going to give on this. It's potentially anything I hook is going to come to the net. So yeah, hope you enjoy the videos. Make sure you subscribe. I've already dropped into a new stretch, found that swim and had a double-figured pike straight away this morning, so I'm up and running. I've only got a couple more swims to cover before I've got to get in the car and get on the road back home. But I'm going to be visiting this quite frequently, different stretches, and potentially, or hopefully, a 20-pound plus pike, or maybe 2, will come along in the next few weeks or months. We should never ever ignore a tip-off from a friend saying that there's big pike attacking the chub he's landed. Now this isn't the one I think, or he said there was 2, the one that I think was giving him any trouble, but literally popped down this morning. The bait sardine's been in the water probably no more than 10 minutes, and the bottom rod just banged, wound in. Knew it wasn't a real big fish, but that's a double. off the Hampshire Avon on a sardine. That's my first fish off this stretch. Literally been in the water 10 minutes, so it just shows you there's pike about, and you put a sardine, it's like chub having a bit of bread, they're going to be on it pretty quick. So a lovely Hampshire Avon pike. Didn't fight a great deal, but as you can see, she's really long and lean, but I'm looking for one probably twice this size. Well, I've just dropped into this swim, and why have I chosen this swim? Well, I've just walked up a fairly featureless stretch of the River Avon. There was one bend down there that I'm going to drop in on the way back, and also there's a weir pool that I've been told I can't, a bit of a grey area that you can fish, and there's one guy fishing it with a lure, so I'm going to take it that I can and just drop a dead bait in there before I get in the car. I've only got a few, like about 3 hours before I need to be back on the road, so I haven't got much time to cover a lot of spaces. Obviously I went to that stretch earlier and caught that double straight away. I gave it another hour and nothing came. Tried another swim, but it didn't feel right. Too much muck coming down. So I've just come to a new stretch, took me about half hour to get here. And I've chosen this swim because of a number of reasons. As you can see, hopefully there's a lot of fast water on the far bank. As I said, it's pretty featureless further down. To my left here, I've got a load, like a little copse I'm in, and there's loads of trees here in the water, and that's deflecting that flow out to the far bank, creating a safe haven and a bit of slack water here. I know other people have fished here. There's bank stick holes, there's line, fine braid where lure anglers have been here. There's also a little bridge with a confluence, a little kind of like stream to my right, and pike quite often can come up and push small fish into areas like that, and obviously when one tries to get out, the pike are sitting there and that's their meal. As they come out, they grab those little roach or dace. So, and also at this time of year, you've got a lot of leaves and a lot of weed coming down, and the trees to my left, diverting that flow, is taking all the leaves and that rubbish over there. So it means I can get a bait in the water, fill that lead down to get a clean drop. It's not very deep out there, it's not as deep as I was expecting, but the deeper water is going to be where that fast water is. Hopefully there's a pike here, and by the time my cup of tea goes cold, I'm going to be losing a bit of confidence. So a swim like this over the winter, I'd probably drop in 3 or 4 times. If I don't catch a pike, I'd just assume it's not an area to, you know, to keep coming back to, because I know that most of the swims here, you drop a bait in and there's a hungry pike about, it's going to have it within, you know, 10 minutes or so. Well, the rod's out, and I've spoken very briefly about the tackle I'm using, the rod, the reel, the reason I'm using braid. Keeping it nice and simple for the first few outings, just a dead bait on a, you know, resistance-free run rig, watching the rod tip at all times. Not at all times, but as often as I can. When I'm not looking at the rod tip, if I'm having a cup of coffee or the phone goes, I turn around. I've always got the bait runner on. That just click if a pike picks it up. But basically, 99.5% of the time, I'm watching that rod tip like a hawk. But I just wanted to touch base and talk about bait. If you're coming down, quality bait. I've got the baits from Devon Baits here. I've got sardines. They're one of my favourite. I do like the smelt as well. I've been told to try them down here because they're a good bait. So I've got one on at the moment, a smelt. I've got some sardine, and I've also got a couple of Joey mackerel there. So mackerel, smelt and sardine, nice and fresh ones. Keep them frozen in your little bait holder pouch. Some ice blocks in there, and that should keep you going all day. Well, in another swim, slowly working my way back to the car. This looks quite sexy, this swim. We've got a big old tree on the far side that's partially fallen down into the water, so you know, plenty of cover for a pike or bait fish, causing a bit of slack on the far side. We are on a bend here. It just looks good, and it's just worth dropping a bait in for 10-15 minutes, the time it takes your cup of tea to be drunk or go cold, and move on. As I said earlier, a lot of fish come when they hear that lead and that bait hit the water. I don't think we give pike enough credit for just how brilliant they are at actually locating, you know, dead, dying and live fish. So anything that looks good, just drop it in there for 10 minutes. Spoke to a lure angler here earlier. Not a lot of information, he's quite new to it, and he again said the problem with the river at the moment is it's just too weedy. So we are expecting the temperatures to plummet over the next couple of days or week. Hopefully the frost will just kill all that weed and it'll all have a good flush through. So as I say, you know, I'm not expecting to catch loads of fish. I'm just trying to locate fish holding areas. There's a massive lure dangling from that tree over there. So there are a few pike anglers with using some big lures, and yeah, that's about 8 inches, that one is. So yeah, and I did see something just move downstream on the far bank. I don't know if it was a bird getting out of the water, or I don't know, it could have been an otter or something, but it could well have been a pike. So keeping your eyes open, being vigilant, talking to people, and slowly you'll build a picture up of the venues and start getting some results. Well, it's about 2:30 in the afternoon. I've got to be on the road shortly after 3, so I'm going to end up in this swim, and it's one of those rare occasions that I've got 2 rods out. I'm below a little kind of weir pool, and I've got a bait, a sardine out to the left and a smelt to the right. What have I learnt today? Not a great deal really. One, I'm a bit early in the year, even though it's halfway through November. There's still a lot of weed, especially on this stretch, but I've actually been told that there's another stretch not a million miles away from here that is a lot less weedy and has been doing some pikes. So talking to people is really good. So I've got another session coming up in a couple of days. Maybe tomorrow, but it's going to be wet tomorrow, and I don't like moving around and roving around on wet days if I can help it, so I'll probably come up on the Tuesday. Sunday today, it's been quite busy. Spoke to a few people, and to be perfectly honest, this stretch, nothing's really grabbed me. That bite first thing in the morning, 10 minutes on a new stretch on a swim that my mate gave me a tip off, produced a fish about 13 pound, so I can take that with me, that swim is worth going there on the way home or first thing in the morning in future, because I'm sure that 13 pounder wasn't the fish that was taking 3 pound, 3.5 pound chub off his hook. So yeah, as I say, first session, I'm just going to keep at it, visit down here as much as I can. I'm going to kind of not do the short sessions, multiple short sessions close to home. I'm just going to come down and fish this. I didn't start till 9 o'clock, got to go at 3, so I've missed the best part of the morning and the best part of the afternoon, but later in the week I'll be getting down here, crack of dawn, and hopefully a bigger fish or 2 will grace my net.